I lost my daughter because my husband chose to be with his mistress instead. After the funeral, he divorced me, and now that I'm wealthy, he wants me back. My daughter's name was B. She was 6 years old. She died on a Thursday afternoon. My husband Ruben was supposed to pick her up from swim class at 4:30. The recreation center sat on a busy road. 4 lanes, no crosswalk directly in front. B saw our neighbor's van pulling into the parking lot across the street. She knew the van. She thought someone had come for her. She stepped off the curb. The driver was going the speed limit. B died at the hospital 2 hours later. I was holding her hand. The nurse who'd been in and out all evening stopped calling me ma'am and started calling me by my first name about 10 minutes before the end. That's how I knew. She kept offering me water in a small paper cup. I didn't drink it. I kept looking at B's nail polish, which I'd painted on her toes the night before. Pale blue. Half of it was already chipped off. I kept thinking somebody should fix that. Somebody should find the bottle and touch it up. Ruben arrived 40 minutes after she was gone. He smelled like perfume that wasn't mine. His shirt was untucked. His eyes were red, but not from crying. He'd been with someone. While our daughter waited alone on a curb, Ruben was with someone. He told me later he'd lost track of time. That was his explanation for our daughter's death. He lost track of time. I found out about the woman 3 weeks after the funeral. Her name was Selena. She worked at a real estate office near Ruben's job. They'd been seeing each other for 7 months. On the Thursday that mattered, Selena called him at 3:45 and asked him to come over. He went. He chose a woman in a real estate office over his daughter in a pool lobby. I asked him at our kitchen table how many Thursdays he'd skipped. He said only a few. I asked if Selena knew he was supposed to pick up our daughter on those Thursdays. He said she knew he had somewhere to be afterward. An interruption. That's what my daughter was. An interruption between the apartment where he spent his Thursday afternoons and the pool lobby where he was supposed to be. 2 months after the funeral, Ruben told me he wanted a divorce. He said he needed a fresh start. The man who didn't pick up his daughter needed to start fresh. He moved in with Selena before the paperwork was filed. I signed because I couldn't look at him anymore. He took half of what we'd built, $40,000, and a woman who knew he was supposed to be somewhere else the night his daughter died. I sold the house 6 months later. I couldn't stand in that kitchen anymore. I moved into a small apartment and went back to work. I'm a software developer. I'd been working part-time while B was alive because I wanted to be home with her in the afternoons. After everything, I went full-time, then freelance. I had nothing but time and a grief so heavy the only way I could carry it was by filling every waking hour with work. I built an app in my apartment at 2 in the morning because I couldn't sleep in a home that didn't have B's purple shoes by the door. A scheduling tool for parents. Pickups, drop-offs, alerts, automatic notifications if a parent didn't confirm arrival. I built it because nobody should lose a child to a missed pickup. I built it because Ruben lost track of time. The first version was ugly. It worked, but it looked like a spreadsheet someone had angry dressed in buttons. I didn't care. I pushed it to the App Store at 4 in the morning and went back to bed and slept for the first time in a week. Within a year, the app had 200,000 users. A tech company offered to acquire it. I said no. I hired a team, scaled the product, raised a round. Within 3 years, the company was valued at $12 million. I hired security on my attorney's advice. 2 bodyguards who drove me to meetings. I bought a house, 4 bedrooms, 1 painted purple. Nobody slept in it. B's drawings on the wall, her rabbit on the bed, a row of her shoes by the closet, arranged smallest to largest because I couldn't make myself throw any of them out. The door stayed open so I could see it from the hallway. Last month, I attended a tech industry dinner downtown. I walked in with my security detail, wearing a dress that cost more than the car Ruben and I used to share. I wasn't looking for him. I'd stopped thinking about Ruben a long time ago, but he was there. Name tag on his jacket. Tech sales. Mid-level. From what I could see by the company on his badge. He saw me before I saw him. By the time I noticed him, he was already walking toward me. He looked older, thinner, a suit that didn't fit, shoes that needed replacing. He stopped in front of me and said my name like a question. I looked at him and felt nothing. The kind of nothing that used to be everything. He said I looked incredible. He said he'd heard about the company. He said he always knew I was brilliant. He always knew. This is the man who let me work part-time so I could handle pickups, who never once asked about my code, who called my side projects a hobby. He asked if we could get coffee sometime. He said he'd love to hear about what I was working on. He said he'd always regretted how things ended. He used the word regretted. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I was wrong. Regretted. Like it was a small, neat feeling that sat in a drawer. I didn't say yes or no. I said, I have to go, and walked past him. But I watched his face as I left. He wasn't embarrassed. He was encouraged. That told me everything. The next morning, I called my best friend Al. He's been in my corner since before the divorce. I told him about the dinner, the coffee invitation, that look on Ruben's face. Al was quiet for 3 seconds, which is a long time for Al. Then he said, he's a roach. Roaches don't stop unless you step on them. I laughed. It felt good to laugh. I told Al he was right and I was moving on. He said, good. You've got bigger things than that, man. 3 days later, a colleague sent me a screenshot from a professional networking platform. Ruben had sent him a connection request. In the middle of the message, Ruben had written, yeah, she's my ex-wife. We're actually reconnecting. Wild how things come full circle. I read it 3 times. That wasn't true. I walked away from him at that dinner without a single word of encouragement, and he'd turned it into a story where we were finding our way back to each other. I looked up his profile. His summary mentioned family values and personal growth. This man left his daughter on a curb. Personal growth. I sat at my desk looking at those 2 phrases for a long time. Family values, personal growth. The 2 exact words he'd run out of the house from. I scrolled his connections. He was connected with 3 people I worked with, not random industry people. People on my side of the business. That night, I called my friend Melanie, who works in public relations. I told her everything. She said, if he's already rewriting the story to your professional circle, you need to get ahead of it. People believe the first version they hear. I told her I didn't want Ruben to take up space in my life again. She said, he's already taking up space. The question is whether you control it or he does. I told her I understood. I told her I'd sleep on it. I did not sleep on it. I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and told myself over and over that nothing had actually happened. A man asked me for coffee. That was the whole event. I thanked her and said I'd think about it. I decided to do nothing. I buried myself in work. I told myself his story would run out of steam. A week later, my phone buzzed with a message from my security lead downstairs. There was a man in the lobby cafe. He matched the description of the individual from the dinner. My whole body went still. table. Then I typed, "I'm coming down." I could have told security to make him leave, but something in me refused to hide in my own building. This was my company. My name on the wall by the elevators. Through the glass wall of the lobby cafe, I saw him, sitting at a small table with a coffee, legs crossed, looking at his phone like he was waiting for a friend, like he belonged there. My security lead stood about 10 feet away, watching. I walked to his table. "What are you doing here, Ruben?" He set his phone down and leaned back. "I just wanted to talk. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. 5 minutes." About how long it took B to decide nobody was coming and step off that curb. I sat down, not because I wanted to talk, because I wanted the conversation in a space I controlled. Ruben took my sitting as a good sign. His shoulders relaxed. "You built something incredible," he said. "I'm proud of you." He said it like a man giving a gift, like proud was currency and he was laying some out for me. I didn't speak. "I know things ended badly," he said. "I know I made mistakes, but we lost B together, and I think that bond means something." He said her name, in the lobby of the company I built because she died. I looked at him and said, "You didn't lose B, Ruben. You left her. There's a difference." Something changed in his face. Fast, hard, then it was gone. He pulled the charm back on like a jacket. "That's not fair. I think about her every day." "You think about her," I said. "I held her. I was there when she died. Where were you?" He didn't answer. His eyes moved to the table, then the window, then back. He couldn't say it, so he changed the subject. He started talking about coffee somewhere more relaxed, about catching up, about how we could be good for each other. He said he'd been going to therapy. He said he'd been doing the work. He said he'd changed. Every sentence was a rehearsal. I could hear the seams. Every word was a door. I stood up. "Don't come here again." I turned and walked to the elevator. My security lead fell into step beside me. I thought that was the end of it. Here's what I didn't see. While I walked to the elevator, one of my investors came into the lobby for an afternoon meeting. He saw Ruben at the cafe table, saw I'd just been talking to him, and waved. After I was gone, Ruben walked over to my investor, shook his hand, and said, "I'm her ex-husband. We're working on things." I didn't find out until 2 days later. My investor brought it up at our next meeting like small talk. We were wrapping quarterly numbers when he smiled and said, "Hey, I met your ex-husband in the lobby the other day. Seems like a nice guy. Glad you two are figuring it out." I sat there with my hands folded and my face still while everything inside me turned to ice. I said something polite. I don't remember what. Some version of yes, complicated, we'll see. The investor moved on to next quarter's projections. I nodded in the right places. I do not remember anything else about that meeting. Ruben wasn't just reaching out to me. He was embedding himself in my professional world, shaking hands with the people who funded my company. And I couldn't make a scene without looking emotional, unstable, the kind of founder who lets her personal life bleed into the boardroom. He understood that. My professionalism was a cage he could use. I called Al that night and told him everything. He said, "He's playing a game you don't want to play, and that's why he's winning. You need to change the rules." I asked what that meant. He said, "Stop protecting his reputation. He didn't protect yours. He didn't protect B." It was the first time someone had said it that plainly. He didn't protect yours. He didn't protect B. I hung up and walked down the hallway to the purple room. I stood in the doorway and looked at B's drawings, her rabbit on the bed. I thought about what she would need me to do, not what was polite, not what was professional, not what would keep the boardroom clean, what B would need from the mother she left behind. The answer was simple. She would need me to tell the truth. I called Melanie the next morning. I said I was done being careful. She said, "Good, I already have an idea." There was a company milestone dinner in 2 weeks. My team, my investors, my people. Melanie suggested a short speech, not about Ruben, about why I built the app, the real reason, not the version I gave in interviews, not market gap and user pain, the actual reason. If Ruben wanted to be part of my story, fine, but he was going to hear the real version, and so was everyone else. Then Abe called. Abe was friends with both me and Ruben back when we were married. After the divorce, most people picked a side. He didn't. I respected that. I hadn't heard from him in months. He said, "I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it." Ruben had been calling people, not just professional contacts, old friends, people who came to B's funeral. The story he was telling was not the story I knew. I'd become cold, obsessive. The money had done something to me. He wanted to heal together, and I'd turned him away. Abe paused. Then he said, "He told your cousin that you blame him for B's death to avoid dealing with your own guilt. He told my aunt he'd been begging me to see a grief counselor for years, and I'd refused. He told an old neighbor I'd never even cried at the funeral. That one winded me more than the others, because I was there. Abe was there. Half those people were there, and they knew. They'd seen me. But memory bends toward whoever tells the story last, and he was telling it last, over and over, to every person who'd ever sat at our kitchen table. I sat down on my kitchen floor with my back against the cabinet. My own guilt. Me. The one who worked part-time so I could be there for every pickup, every bath, every bedtime story. The one who was at the office that Thursday because Ruben said he had it covered. The one who held B's hand in the hospital. Abe said, "I don't believe him. I never have. But I thought you should know before that dinner." I thanked him. I understood what Ruben was doing. Person by person. Conversation by conversation. Building a version where he was the wounded party and I was the villain. Poisoning the well before I could drink from it. I called Melanie. I said, "The speech needs to change. Names, dates, details. I'm not giving a eulogy. I'm giving testimony." She said, "Come over. We're rewriting it tonight." The morning of the dinner, I drove to the venue 2 hours early. A private dining room in the back of a restaurant. 40 seats, white tablecloths. A small podium with a microphone nobody would need because the room was small enough that a normal voice could reach every corner. I had my speech printed on 4 pages inside a leather folder. Around 5, Al texted a photo. B at her 5th birthday. Frosting on her nose, eyes almost closed from laughing. Below it he wrote, "She'd be so proud of you tonight." I taped the photo to the inside of the folder so I'd see it every time I looked down. Guests arrived at 6. My team, my investors, my lead investor took my hand in both of his and said, "Big night, you've earned this." I was standing near the podium when my security lead walked over. "There's a situation," he said. "Someone not on the guest list is asking to come in." I knew before he finished. Of course he came. Of course he found out. Of course the one night designed around my company ended up with him standing in the lobby of the venue. Where is he? Lobby. He's telling them he's your ex-husband and he was invited. I closed my eyes for 1 second. Then I said, "I'll handle it." Melanie caught my arm as I passed. She didn't say anything. She just let go when I kept walking. I walked to the lobby. Ruben stood at the front desk in a new dark suit. He'd gotten a haircut. He looked prepared. The second he saw me, his face lit up. "Hey," he said. "I heard about the dinner. I figured you wouldn't mind if I stopped by." "You weren't invited, Ruben." He kept smiling. "Come on, this is a celebration. I just want to support you." I looked at him. "You want an audience?" His smile tightened. The mask slipped. Then he rearranged it. "I just miss being part of your life." I thought about telling security to walk him out. I thought about the scene he could use later to prove I was unstable. Then I thought about the 4 pages in the folder. Bee's photo taped inside. Her frosting nose. If Ruben wanted to be in that room, fine. He could sit there and listen to exactly why I built the company. Every word. I said, "Fine, come in." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, then satisfaction. He thought he'd won something. He had no idea what he'd walked into. He followed me through the restaurant to the private dining room. Mulaney's eyebrow went up when she saw him. I gave her a small nod. She read my face and stepped aside. Ruben walked in like he owned a piece of the place. He started shaking hands. "I'm the ex-husband," he'd say with a little laugh, "but we're friendly." The investor from the lobby and counter waved. Ruben waved back. He took a seat at a table near the door, crossed one leg over the other, and looked around like he belonged. The program started. A team update. My lead investor's remarks on growth. Appetizers. Then the host said my name and the room went quiet. I cleared my throat. "People always ask entrepreneurs what inspired their product," I said. "Most of us have a clean answer about market gaps and user needs." I paused and looked down at Bee's photo. Then I looked up. "I built this app because my daughter died on a Thursday afternoon. Her name was Bee. She was 6 years old." The silence was so thick I could feel it on my skin. 40 people sat holding their breath, and in the back row I saw Ruben's smile slide off his face like water off a table. He looked at the door. I saw him measure the distance. Then he looked back at me, and whatever was on his face settled into something closer to waiting. I kept going. "Before I tell you how she died, I want to tell you who she was. She had purple shoes she wore every day until the soles fell apart. She had a stuffed rabbit with one eye missing that she slept with every night. She called swimming fish school. After every class, she'd wrap herself in her towel like a burrito and waddle to the car. Every Thursday. That was our routine. She'd count the chlorine in the air on the way in, which is not a thing you can count, but she was 6, and she did it anyway. 1, 2, 3, chlorine. Then she'd hand me her rabbit and go get changed." A few people in the front row smiled with wet eyes. I gripped the edge of the podium. Bee had swim class every Thursday, and every Thursday someone was supposed to pick her up at 4:30. The recreation center sat on a busy road. 4 lanes. No crosswalk right in front. On the Thursday that mattered, the person responsible for picking up my daughter was not there. He was somewhere else, with someone else. He chose to be somewhere else. He did not lose track of time. That is a phrase people use to make a decision sound like an accident. It was not an accident. I didn't look at Ruben. I didn't need to. I felt the room lean toward me. My daughter stepped off a curb because she saw a familiar van and thought someone had come for her. She was 6. She didn't understand that nobody was coming. No one breathed. One of my team members was crying without making a sound. The investor who'd waved at Ruben stared at his plate. Bee died at the hospital that evening. I was holding her hand. The person who was supposed to pick her up arrived 40 minutes after she was gone. I let that sit. That person is in this room tonight. Heads turned. People looked at Ruben for the first time. He came uninvited. He's been telling people we're reconnecting. He's been telling people I blame him unfairly. I turned and looked directly at him. His face had lost all its color. The charm was gone. "Ruben," I said, calm, clear. "I don't blame you unfairly. I blame you accurately. You were with your mistress Selena at 3:45 on a Thursday when our daughter was waiting on a curb. You chose her. Bee is gone because you chose her." The words landed like stones in water. Nobody gasped. It was worse than that. It was just understanding. 40 people understanding at the same time exactly what kind of man was sitting in the back. Ruben stood. His chair scraped. His mouth opened, closed, opened. "That's not, you can't just," he couldn't finish. He looked around the room, face to face, searching for anyone who might speak up. He looked at the investor he'd shaken hands with. The investor looked at his napkin. There was nothing. His voice cracked. "I lost her too. I lost Bee too." I looked at him with the photo open in front of me. "You didn't lose her, Ruben. You left her, and then you left me. And now you're here because I have money and a name and you want to stand next to it. But you don't get to stand next to Bee's memory and pretend you were there. You weren't there. I was." The room was so quiet I could hear him breathing from 30 feet away. His eyes moved across the tables one last time. Nobody moved. Nobody even looked like they were thinking about it. He picked up his jacket and held it bunched against his side. He turned and walked to the door. His shoes made soft sounds on the hardwood. The door opened and closed. I closed the folder. I pressed my hand flat on it for a second, like I was pressing my palm against Bee's cheek. Then I looked up and said, "That's why I built the app. So no child waits on a curb alone. So no parent gets a phone call like I did. That's the whole reason." I sat down. My hands were steady. Mulaney reached over and took my hand. The room stayed silent. Then someone at the front table stood up. Then someone at the next table. Then another. One by one, chair by chair, people rose. They didn't clap. They didn't cheer. 40 people standing in a private dining room with half-eaten appetizers, saying nothing. They stayed standing for a long time. Longer than I expected. Long enough that I started to notice the small sounds under the silence. A chair shifting. Someone setting down a glass. The click of the door latch catching as it closed behind him for good. Then people sat, slowly, one table at a time. Dinner went on. His chair was empty. His water glass sat where he'd left it. The appetizers had gone cold.